periodically. That is known as auditing. It is derived from the Latin word that is audere, that means to listen. Auditing involves compliance with the requirements of a functions, procedure, and other processes within the system. Through this audit process, the complaint what is happening, what is not relevant to the employee, what is not relevant to the organization, or the organization culture is not up to the mark, that can be identified, that can be resolved. So, initially, gaining prominence in finance due to statutory obligations, auditing has become a formal process with administrative significance. So, from this point, we get to know that it is a purely formal process. In contrast, auditing is the human resource. Welcome back. This is Assistant Professor Rosy Barik from Human Resource Department is going to discuss about human resource planning. Today our topic is human resource audit. Your block 3 unit 9 and code is MMPH003. So, the content of this part is introduction, concept and definition of HR audit, characteristics of human resource audit, benefits of human resource audit, scope of HR audit, objectives of HR audit, auditing process, research approach to HR audit, advantages of HR audit, and limitations of HR audit. So, today we will be discussing the new part which is implemented in every organization and what is its role we can identify through it. So, first, before knowing the HR audit, we should know what is audit. The term audit or auditing is a commonly associated with the on-site verification, inspection, or examination aimed at ensuring the desired quality of the system. That means the organization is running to know whether the organization, the company, the institution is running effectively or not. Is there any issue of running the business? Is there any issue in productivity? Is there any issue in any part of the organization that can be verified, inspected, or examined? So, the audit word is derived from the Latin word audere, that means to listen. That means through this process, the organization can listen or the organization can listen what is happening inside the organization. That means the manager, the auditor, the person who is going to do the audit can able to listen what is happening in the organization, what are the functions of the organization, and the organization is running effectively or not, that also can be identified. So, initially gaining the prominence in finance due to statutory obligations, auditing become a formal process with administrative significance. In contrast, auditing is the human resource is desirable but not mandatory, introducing the evolving concept of HR audit. So, it is not a mandatory process of doing the HR audit in every organization, but yes, it is the desirable one because through this audit process, we can get to know how the organization is running. Is there any problem in the organization? We can find out the appropriate solution for the organization. And thing is that the finally we can say the human resource audit is the comprehensive examination of organizations HR policies, procedures and practices to ensure compliance, effectiveness and alignment with the organizational goal. And also it is very much beneficial for the organization for a long term basis. So the concept and definition of the HR audit, it is just systematic, scientific, comprehensive tool to verify HR related documents, policies, procedures, practices and results to obtain from the human effort of the organization. So human resource audit is a comprehensive examination of the organization's HR policies, procedures and practices, then alignment with the organizational goal. The organization is running effectively, the policies and procedures are meeting the organizational goals, that can be identified or that can be verified through the HR audit process. It is the diagnostic tool to identify the errors in HR functions and find the solutions there. So it is a tool and also a method of compliance concerning rules, regulation of the HR department of the organization. Thus, with the help of HR audit, an organization can bridge the gap between the actual and expected result of the HR functions. Because every organization has certain goals, certain rules and regulation. Whether the rules and regulation while working in the organization is meeting the organizational goal is the one of the foremost part of the organization that can be identified through the HR audit process. So, HR audit is the voluntary to be followed in an organization. So, however, every organization these days has dedicated to HR audit process in line with the overall organizational objectives, policies and strategies and legal formalities. This function of audit can be found by internal auditors like HR directors and external auditors like consulting firms. From this, we can find out that the HR audit can be done in the organization through HR directors as well as the external auditors from the consulting firm. That means consulting firms or audit firms are there through which auditing process can be done. So from this, we can identify that it is used to identify the errors in the HR functions, not only to find out the errors or problems of the organization or functions of the HR. They through the audit process we can find out the valuable solution which is relevant for the organization. So the HR audit is a practice followed by the HR department to monitor, identify, and evaluate the internal control of the organization. HR audit is a tool to help the company to determine that an HR department is functioning the way it is and supposed to and covering everything it is character or catered to cover. So, through this HR audit tool, the company determined the HR department is functioning or how the HR department is supposed to function that can be identified. HR audit report, the current function of the HR department, obviously, what is happening in the organization that can be identified through HR department. Either it explicit the practices are protecting the company and providing the optimal use of human resources to the document to their documented potential or not. So through this, organization can identify or organization can get to know whether the human resources are available in the organization. The organization is able to get optimal benefit from the workforce or human resources or not. So, the characteristic of human resource auditor first is a process of examination, SWOT analysis of HR system, a diagnostic tool, helps in implementing metrics and benchmark practices. So, the process of examination. HR audit is the systematic process of examining documentation, process, procedures, practices, and system of an organization concerning human resource functions. The SWOT analysis of HR system, HR audit function helps in identifying the strength, weakness of the human resource and HR policies. It helps in developing the capability of foresight probable threats to the human resources of the organization and identifies the opportunities to grow further. So, through the SWOT analysis, HR system can identify its strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat to grow in the organization. It is a diagnostic tool. HR audit is not a prescriptive instrument but a diagnostic tool to identify lacunas in the HR policies and procedure. So it is not a prescriptive instrument, it is a diagnostic tool through which the lacuna of HR functions and policies or procedures can be identified effectively. It helps in implementing matrices, benchmark practices. So, HR audit not only helps in examining the HR policies and the procedures and identification of errors, but also it sets the implementation matrices and benchmarking of HR practices. In this way, an organization can develop the best HR function. The benefit of human resource audit. What is the benefit? First of all, HR audit helps in identification of contributions generated by the HR department to the organization. It sets out human resource department as a professional unit of an organization. It helps in curbing the cost of human resources. HR audit motivates the personnel of the organization to contribute to the maximum. It helps in identification of problems of human resource functions. It develops a probable course of solution to identified HR problems. It fulfills the legal requirement of an organization. With the help of HR audit, a sound and fair performance appraisal system can be developed. With the help of this, systematic job analysis can be performed. HR audit may also break the resistance to change by the employee. Through this HR audit, the change of resistance, because people who are working in the organization, they are definitely resist the change. So it able to break the resistance to change by the employees. What are the scope of HR audit? In common parlance, we can say it is the concept of HR audit is closely related to terms like personal audit, organizational audit, personal function audit, giving it a broad scope. It encompasses the various aspects of human resource management, including recruitment, selection, training, performance appraisal, career planning, promotions, industrial relations, and compensation. According to Dale Werder, 1972, it was wrongly written 1972, the scope of HR audit spans six major areas with three levels for each area. The six major areas are Area 1, that is planning, 2, staffing and development, 3. Organizing, motivation and commitment, administration, research and innovation. Before that, in the common parlance, we can see the scope of HR. The scope of HR audit says about HR policies and the procedures, recruitment and selection process, as we have already discussed about it, employee onboarding and training, performance management as well as performance appraisal, employee relations and its communications, compensation and its benefit, labor law compliances, diversity, equity and inclusion, employee engagement and retention, HR matrices and analysis. These are HR matrices and analytics. These are the terms which are the scope of HR audit. So the different areas we can find out, that is planning. That means forecasting and scheduling to meet organizational and professional needs. Staffing and development, it requires manpower, recruitment, selection, career growth and learning. Then organizing, HR audit requires the maintenance of communication, supervision, culture and coordination. So it requires the maintenance of communication, supervision, structure and coordinations. Motivation and commitment, HR audit requires individual and group motivation and encouragement. The administration, it requires the leadership, supervision and delegation of authority. Research and innovation, experimentation, theory, development and application and bridging, and it helps in bringing innovative functions of HR. So, HR research and innovation says about experimentation of theories and development and its applications also, and bringing innovative functions of HRM into the market or into the organization. So, analyzing the current workforce. Before that, I want to say one example. Suppose there is a company which is called XYZ company, having the employees of 500. They want to do the audit process. Their main objective of audit was to find out is to evaluate the effectiveness of HR policies and procedure, to assess the compliance with the labor laws and regulations, and identify the areas of improvement in HR processes. As we have already discussed, the HR audit is not only to find out the drawbacks or the problems of the HR functions, but also to provide a valuable and relevant solution to the HR function. So, analyzing the current workforce, HR audit operates at three levels: what we know, what we don't know, and what we don't know. We don't know. So, this highlighting its comprehensive scope, it helps in improving the existing HR practices, identify the areas needs to be correction. It uncovers the overlooked opportunities, mistakes, and gaps in HR policies. HR audit encompasses three aspects, that is system audit, operation audit, and climate audit. While the system audit focuses on maintaining HR data, the operation audit evaluates its efficiency and cost effectiveness, and the climate audit assesses the workforce perceptions and whether the system meets their expectations or not. So here we can find out the three aspects of HR audit are system audit, operation audit, and climate audit. So the system audit, it focuses on maintaining the HR data. Operation audit evaluates its efficiency and cost effectiveness, and climate audit focuses on workforce perceptions, whether the system meets their expectations or not. Now we'll be discussing on auditing process, how the audit process can be going on. HR audit is a quite complex process to be followed. Yet, every organization may have different steps to be followed while performing an HR audit based on the objective of HR department, their functions and activities and strategic objective of the organization. Orientation and briefing. So, first step is orientation and the briefing. This is the preliminary meeting may discuss the major issues to be considered in the audit. Charting of HR audit process, developing a plan and program for HR audit, and discussions related to internal and external HR audit. So it is all about the discussion plan, charting of audit process, that is orientation and briefing of HR audit. Next is scanning the material information. After discussing the major preliminary steps related to HR audit, significant and material information is required for scrutiny and carried out the HR processes. The relevant information such as personal database, personal handbook, appraisal report, guides, recruitment materials, etc. can be collected and scrutinized. So, first of all, the auditors will brief about the HR audit, what are the requirements for this auditing process, then scanning the material document, why material informations, the document which has been kept, that should be collected and that should be scrutinized. Next step is surveying. Based on the information available in the database or in the documents, the questionnaire audit tools can be prepared for further survey of the employees. The surveying may include an interview with the key managers, functional managers, top level managers, supervisors, team leaders, etc. The objective of this survey is to identify the key issues of the concerned category of the staff, their existing potential and anticipated needs of HR human resources. Next is conducting interviews. Asking relevant and concise questions during an interview is the crucial to obtaining reliable information, avoiding wasted time, and addressing key issues. Audit questions should align with identified concern based on the collected data. So now we'll be discussing on what are the questions being asked by the auditors in the organization. For the area wise, we can see for the overall organization they ask, does the company have a vision and mission? Does the HR department of a company follow the organizational goals? Is your company equal employment opportunity compliant? How does the HR department communicate with its employees and its higher authorities? How many full time and part time employees are in the organization? Do they know their status and part time or full time? These are the questions related to the organization are being asked to the employee. Then, based on the recruitment, how the recruitment manager here, what is the recruitment process of this company? Are there any procedures for background checks? How many candidates are hired in recommendation basis? How long does a recruitment process run normally? And which medium is used for recruitment, whether it is social media, worm, that is word of mouth, and print media, etc. Who makes the final decisions to hire the someone? It also can be questioned. Then compensation and benefits. Who negotiates the compensation and benefits? Are the compensation and benefits are the compensation and benefits predetermined or flexible? What is the salary range of different categories of the employees? Do the employees get any increment? What is the duration of the increment? How much is the how much is the increment granted generally? Is the salary fixed or variable for the performance? Do employees know about their compensation right? So these are all about the compensation and benefits related questions. Now we'll be discussing on employee relations. Do the supervisor sets a meeting with his team? How are the quality and volume of the work being assessed? Is there any way to file a complaint against the colleague or issue of the supervisor? Or in simple term, is there any grievance redressal cell? How are the performance issued resolved? Is there any performance appraisal tool? There safety and workers being well-being. Though it is the most crucial part of the every organization, does the company have a policy against the workplace violence and harassment? Are the managers quick in decision making related to work, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse at work? How often is workplace accident take place or are reported? How often and quickly workplace accident share investigated? Are the employee encouraged to report accidents without fear of retaliation? So, next is record keeping and documentation. Are the personal records, performance reviews, and other HR documents kept confidential? How easily an employee can access his employment related information? Do the personal information is accessible to the employees online easily and conveniently? Then are sensitive documents or personal stored to ensure the location or stored in the secured location? Do managers and supervisors undergoes training and personal files? How often do employees revert personality to retrieve their employment informations? Next, we'll be discussing on exit operation. What is the minimum number of years an employee stays within the organization? What is the notice period of the candidate has to serve? Is there any process for exiting the organization? What is the attrition rate in the organization? Then, how many employees in a year leave voluntarily? And how long does it takes for the company and how long does it take for the company to clear up all the dues towards the an employee leaving the organization? So these are the things that is being audited by the auditors. So first and foremost thing is about the overall organization, then recruitment, compensation benefits, employee relations, safety and workers' well-being, then record keeping and documentation, as it is the most important part of the organization to keep the record in secret and documented it, then exit operation. Next is synthesizing. The data obtained from scrutinized document and survey interviews are synthesized to present the following information, that is current situation, staff pattern, identifies issues, priorities, future needs, appropriate criteria developed, etc. Next is reporting. After synthesizing the relevant information and issues identified, they are reported to the head managers, specialists, and HR directors in the meeting for planning. The key critical issues identified the key critical issues identified in the meeting and brought to the notice of the management in a formal report. A plan to resolve the issue is developed and implemented to eliminate the identified issues. So, follows up are also very necessary after an audit to assess the effectiveness of the implemented of the HR plan. So we here we saw about the different stages of audit or audit process. First one is surveying, then conducting interviews through different areas like overall organization, recruitment, and compensation and benefits, employee relations, safety and workers' well-being, record keeping and documentation, then exit into operations, synthesizing, reporting. Now we'll be discussing on Burger Stocks 4-phase audit process 2000. So we left over the four pages research approach to the HR audit. We have various research approach, advantages to the HR audit, limitations of the HR audit, then summary. Bargus Stocks 4-phase audit process 2000. Unlike the comprehensive and long process of HR audit, which mainly organization follows, Bargus Stock in 2000 have proposed 4 phases of HR audit process. His process devised would cater to need for the services rendered by the HR department of the public as well as non-profit organization. HR department of a non-profit organization struggles to keep HR functions adequate, accountable, and efficient. The 4 phases are recognition, HRM team self evaluation, measurement of the level of current HR service, then development and implementation of the action plan for implementation of the audit outcome. So first step is recognition. Recognize HR services based on their function, rank them in terms of priority. In this phase, HR auditors rank all the HR functions based on the importance of the existing work setting. This rank can be on the scale of 9 to 90 or 9 to 5, where 90 or 5 being the most important. Next is HRM team self evaluation. After prioritizing and ranking all the HR functions, the HRM teams are asked to evaluate themselves based on their skills, competencies, and HR contribution that they offer to the organization. Now comes to the measurement of level of current HR services. The assessment and measurement of current HR service level can be done Using unavailable database or secondary data such as employee reports, service books, data files, appraisal reports, etc. If required, primary data survey can also be used. Basically, secondary data surveys are used, but if required, then primary survey can be used. Here is the ultimate aim is to where the current HR service stand on efficiency level. Now, phase 4 development and implementation of action plan for this implementation of audit outcome. Based on the results derived from the current HR level, the HRN team self evaluations, deviations, and critical issues can be identified, and the action plan for the improvement can be developed. After approval of top authorities, looking at all the cost and benefits of the plan is put into the use. Then, the new concept, the research approach to the HR audit. Under an HR audit, a careful investigation, the research of HR activities are done. Since it itself is a comprehensive process, that means HR audit is a comprehensive process. It takes into consideration several research approaches due to HR scope being too broad. A few of the approaches are adopted by HR audits are comparative approach, statistical approach, compliance approach, outside authority approach, MBO approach under the management by objective approach, and value addition approach. First is comparative approach. As its name suggests, comparative approach is the HRA audit uses another department or division as a base to compare. So, as its name suggests, comparative. So, basically, in this process, comparison is being done. Many times, overall organization is taken as a model to compare the effectiveness of HR practices. The auditor then compares the results of HR departments or the organization. These are served as benchmarks or standards for the audit team. So, statistical approach, this is the scientific and systematic approach to the auditing incorporates the statistical methods and tools that measure the effectiveness of the performance of the company and its various departments. For instance, the research into companies' records may reveal attrition and absenteeism rates using descriptive statistics. Another problem that can be identified using statistical methods is the wage rate system. These data may indicate how effectively HR activities are being performed and these issues are being controlled. Compliance approach, this is the another HR audit approach strategy that reviews the previous practices to understand if those actions are as per the company's policies, procedures, practices, legal regulations, visions, and mission. Outside authority approach, it is an external source of HR audit wherein an outsider agency is hired to determine the standard and benchmark for the organization. It is quite simple. They have to hire one person for auditing. Therefore, the actual performance of the HR functions is measured and compared with the standard set by outsiding consultant. Next is MBO approach, management by objective. Under this approach, the organization fixes the target to be achieved. The actual performance are measured against the fixed targets, and the auditors of the company survey to measure the actual performance, and comparisons are made with the regrets by the set of managers and their employees jointly. So next one is value addition approach. According to Hudson's 2006, the HR audit approach should aim to achieve specific human resource audit objectives. The HR process involves three steps, that is diagnosis, defining and production. Diagnosis itself identifies the current effectiveness of human resources, often using through questionnaire. Defining focuses on analyzing the results to benchmark existing effectiveness against the market standard, then identify the areas for the improvement. And finally, the production stage involves preparing an HR audit report that highlights the critical development points and estimates future resource requirements to align with the organizational objectives. Now comes to the important part, that is advantages of HR audit. It helps in adjustments and modifications of policies, procedures, and practices of HR management. It creates a tools to have control over HRM functions. With the help of HR audit, corporations benefit line. Uh, with the help of HR audit, cooperation between the line and staff can be categorized or can be established. With the help of HR audit, a clear understanding is made about what are we doing and what is our objectives. It helps in improvement of existing policies and practices. HR audit helps in identification of weak areas of the HR functions. What are the weak areas of the HR functions can be identified and relevant solution are given by the audit. So it identifies the strength and opportunities of the HR managers. Now we'll be discussing on the last part about HR audit is the limitations of HR audit. As we have already discussed that there are various types of advantages of HR audit. With disadvantages, it has various limitations or disadvantages are the resistance by the employees, tarnish the image of the HR department, unfair cultural consultation by the third party, an audit of unit or system. We have left only this part. So, resistance by the employees. Organizations may face significant employee resistance during HR audit. That resistance can negatively impact the audit's effectiveness, as a hostile environment can lead to inaccurate the result. Ultimately, such resistance can hinder the organization's goals and audit's purpose. For example, introducing a new performance evaluation system may be met with the opposition if the employee's perspective in the employee's perspective it was threat to the job security and or we can say to the work life balance. So again, we can see that what are the objectives of this resistance by the employees. Organizations may face significant employee resistance during the HR audits. This resistance can negatively impact the audit's effectiveness. As a hostile environment that can lead to inaccurate results. Ultimately, such resistance can hinder the organizational goals and audit's purpose. For example, if you want to introduce a new performance evaluation system, it may be met with the opposition if employee perceive it is the threat to their job security or work-life balance. Next is tarnish the image of the HR department or tarnish the image of the HR department. The HR audit may give some serious and drastic suggestion to take actions such as termination and layoff of the employees. In such cases, a company may earn a bad reputation which can harm the overall HR policies, recruitment, processes, and HR department. The prospective candidates might also not be willing to join the organization due to such a strict HR audit process. This will create perceived job insecurity in the organization. As we can see, due to downfall of software or due to some certain issues, most of the employees are being fired in a single night from the software companies. So it is very difficult for the employees who are present in the softwares. They feel that is very difficult to survive and sustain in the department, because anytime the termination process can be going on, and it is happening due to lack of interest of employees in the organization. Now comes to the unfair consultation by the third party. Many organizations resource to external consultation for HR auditing to avoid many possible biasness. However, many times third party consultation does not represent the actual picture of the HR department, as they are not employees of the organization. They might not know the inconsistency between the organizational need and policies and expectations and competencies of the employees. Thus, their service would not fulfill the objectives of the HR audit. So, maximum time, what happened? The organization is hiring the external policy or external agent to audit the HR department. Most of the time, their result are not meet with the HR department work of the HR department. They might not know the inconsistency between the organizational needs and the policies and expectations of the competencies of the employees, or they are not represent the actual picture of the HR department, as they are not the employee of the organization. So, an audit of unit or system, HR audit does the evaluation and assessment of units and system of the organization. However, it does not provide consultation on the individual employee. The HR audit is the investigation of HR unit of the system, such as whole, but not as the investigation of each element forming the part of the HR unit system, such as a general quiet faculty or general quiet faulty. So it doesn't evaluation and assessment of units and systems of the organization. However, it does not provide the consultation of on the individual employees. This HR audit can is an investigation of the HR unit of the system as a whole, but not the investigation of each element forming the part of the HR unit system. So these are all about the human resource audit. So what we have discussed, we can have a glance on it. So first one is, from starting we see what is audit. We defined how it came, why it is necessary, the definition, the why it is what it provides to the organization, whether it is providing the solution to the problems or not, and it is performing how it is performed. It is performed both for internal as well as the external auditors. Then concept and definition of the HR audit, characteristics of human resource audit. From this characteristic we found the process of examination, SWOT analysis of HR system or diagnostic tools. It helps in implementing the matrices and benchmark practices. What are the benefits of the HR audit? Scope of the HR audit, as we have already discussed about the 6 major areas of the HR audit, and like planning, organizing, planning and developing, staffing, We can see the organizing, motivation and commitment, administration, research and innovation. These are the areas that we had find out. Then we can also the different scope of the HR, that is we for a layman concept, the scope of the HR we can say the HR policies and procedures, recruitment and selection process, the training and development process, employee onboarding and training, performance management and performance appraisal, employee relations and communications. We can also find out the compensation and benefit of the organizations, labor law compliance, diversity, equity and inclusion, then employee engagement and retention, HR matrices and analytics. This is the scope of the HR audit. Analyzing the current workforce, what is happening, why audit is necessary, what is the current scenario of the audit. Then what are the auditing process? The auditing process is again divided through orientation and briefing, scanning material informations, surveying, conducting interviews, and how the questions are being asked in different areas such as overall about overall organization, recruitment, compensation and benefits, employee retention, safety and workers well-being, record keeping and documentation, and exit operations. Then synthesizing, reporting. These are the phases. Then Barger Stocks 4 phases audit process 2000. So we had identified the 4 phases, that is recognition, HRM team self evaluation, measurement of the level of current HR services, development and implementation of action plan for the implementation of audit outcome. Then we find out the research approach to the HR audit, and also we can see the audit methodology. This is the research approach, that is there are 6 or 7 types of approach are there, that is comparative approach, statistical approach, compliance approach, outsized authority approach, MBO approach and value addition approach. With this we have HR audit methodology, that is review of HR policies, procedures and documents, interviews of HR staffs, managers and employees, observation of HR processes and practices. Then final is the HR data and matrices, the analysis of what are the data we have find out and what are the matrices we have followed. And after this we have gone through the various approaches, then advantages of HR audit and disadvantages of HR audit, that is resistance by the employees, tarnish the image of the HR department, unfair consultation or by the third party, and the audit of unit or system. After that, what we found from the whole auditing process? So from the whole auditing process, what we found is HR policies and procedures. Outdated policies and procedures need revision to reflect the current labor laws and best practices. We can find out the updated HR policies and procedures. Next is recruitment and selection process. Inefficient recruitment process result in delays and increase the cost. Then also we can find out the employee onboarding, the inadequate onboarding process which leads to poor employee retention and engagement, and also performance management, inconsistent performance appraisal process results in bad or biased evaluations. Then employee relations, poor communication and lack of transparencies lead to low employee morale. So from the HR audit, we can find out the updated HR policies and procedures, recruitment and selections, employee onboarding, and we can find out the performance management or performance appraisal, and also we can find out the employee relations part. So As we have discussed about the advantages and disadvantages of HR audit, we can also find out what is the recommendation should be used in the HR audit, which is more efficient for the organization. So that also can be find out. The recommendations are updated HR policies and the procedures. So through this HR audit process, the different policies to reflect the current labor laws and best practices can be updated. Then streamlining, we can say the streamlining of recruitment process. Then we can say the enhance the employee onboarding process. That means develop the comprehensive strategy or onboarding programs to improve the employee retention and engagement. Then standardize the performance management or appraisal to implement the consistent performance appraisal process, which ensures the fair evaluation and improve the employee relations, which is most important factor for organization. It helps in fostering the poor communication and transparency to boost the employee mood. So these are all about our HR audit. Here we can discuss about what are the summary of this HR audit. So the HR audit is the systematic, scientific, and comprehensive tools which is used to assess the organization's HR related documents, policies, procedures, practices, and the result of human effort. It acts as the diagnostic tools to identify the error in HR functions. It purpose the various solutions, ensuring compliance with HR department's rules and regulation. HR audit, after numerous benefit including effective HR functions management and implementation of best HR practices, and a wide scope for covering various HR functions like recruitment, selection, training, development, motivation, compensation, and administration. Then, while comprehensive HR audit can point out the lacunas in the HR functions, it add the development of effective HR policies, procedures, and practices. And through this HR audit, it has certain limitations such as faulty implementation, employee resistance, and potential negative impacts on the HR department's image. So these are all about our human resource audit. Thank you.